the most noise, I would say, this week, if you're looking at kind of transfer columns, this, that, and the other, is around Joao Gomes. It was always going to be the case. Him and a handful of others that we'll talk about are obviously the ones that hold the most value for Wolves and have been performing probably better than most in recent months. He was linked earlier this week with a move to Napoli. Atletico Madrid have also now reportedly come into the frame. Keenan, what can you kind of tell us on that one? There were some reports around Napoli and a potential deal in the summer. What's kind of your take on it, and what do you know at the moment that you can tell Wolves fans?
Yeah, Joao Gomes is another player that, whether he goes in January or goes in the summer, will not be a Wolves player next season for pretty obvious reasons, really. And what I can say is that, because you never know when it comes to foreign reports and things like that. You never know exactly what's true, what's not, and I always will only talk about things that I can verify and know for a fact that are true. And I can verify 100% accurately that both Napoli and Atletico Madrid have made contact with Joao Gomez's representatives. As far as I am led to believe, as of right now, recording, there's been no contact with Wolves from any other club or agents about him, which I think is worth mentioning. And Wolves will be demanding, we're expecting £40+ million from him if he was to go in January. 40 to 45, I think, would be that region. You're probably going to get about 10 million cheaper in the summer, potentially, depending on interest. But yeah, those two clubs 100% have made contact with representatives and have held talks and are looking at a potential route into getting him out of the club in January. What I can say, which I don't think is out there anywhere, is it's my understanding that Joao Gomes as a player is really keen to stay in the Premier League. There will be Premier League interest in him. And I think that's really worth noting, because whether those clubs will match the fees that are available or whatever the deals that can be done with these other clubs that potentially are in for him, and whether that's this month or whether that's in the summer, but he, as a player, he wants to stay in the Premier League, and he wants to get moved to a Premier League club, ideally, going forward. However, if clubs put the money up, he could end up at Atletico Madrid, for example. On Atletico Madrid as well, I think it's worth people being aware that Jorge Mendes has a really strong relationship with Atletico Madrid. He brokered the deal for Cunha to come to Wolves from Atletico Madrid previously, and it's my understanding that he's sort of pushing Joao Gomes in that direction to sign for Atletico Madrid. That he is pushing him in the direction of making that move. But as I reiterate, the player is really keen to stick around in the Premier League. One thing I want to mention as well, and I think this is only fair to try and get all points across, is that Joao Gomes is a player that genuinely loves it at Wolves. We had that whole free Joao Gomes movement when he came from Brazil. He felt really wanted and needed here. He's turned into a fantastic player here, and he genuinely does love the club. Of course, for his career, he's not going to play in the Championship, so he's going to have to move on. And I think most fans will understand that. And he doesn't want to force a move. And what I can say is that he isn't forcing it. The player is not demanding that he goes this month. He's not refusing to train or anything like that. And I hope he doesn't do that. And I don't think he will. So he isn't forcing it. But what's also playing on his mind and his people's mind is that, he needs to get himself back in the Brazil squad. There's a World Cup coming up. He's good enough, in my opinion, to definitely be in the squad as bare minimum. And he's been left out of a few squads recently. And I think he's going to struggle if he's being relegated with Wolves to get himself into that Brazil team. So that's coming into their thinking as well. So lots of different moving parts here. As I said with Larson as well, Wolves at the moment, first of all, they've not been contacted by clubs, but secondly, they're not really engaging with clubs in terms of potentially signing players. So that's got to happen really for a player to go. The money's got to be put up. The clubs have got to pay the right money to get a club out, to get a player out of Wolves as well, and then it's got to be the right club for the player. So lots of different moving parts. But if you were to ask me between Larson, Andre, Joao Gomes, who are your sort of big three really, I would expect probably one of them to go at least, and potentially more. But yeah, it depends on incomings as well, which of course has been pretty quiet at the moment.